As cities around the world continue to grow and become even more densely populated, hotlines for residents to contact authorities about public concerns and complaints have become ever more important to achieve effective governance. In 2019, Beijing implemented the 12345 hotline, merging 64 previous hotlines into a single channel, and so far people are giving it a thumbs up with a 97% satisfaction rate. So how does the service work? How does it compare with other similar hotlines in mega cities around the world? And how do hotlines like this help make cities more enjoyable to live in here in China? Welcome to this special edition of The Point with me, Li Xin, coming to you from Beijing. I'm pleased to be joined today by Xia Lu, Research Fellow at the National Academy of Development and Strategies at Renmin University of China, Zoon Ahmed Khan, Senior Fellow at the Center for China and Globalization. She's from Pakistan. Rafael Enrique Zerbetel, a Brazilian foreign expert at China International Communications Group, and Wang Xiaohan, a student at the University of Nottingham, Ningbo, China, who has first-hand experience using such a hotline. The warmest welcome to all of you. Now, a bit of a background to this hotline. It actually originated from the Beijing's Mayor's hotline service dating back to 1987 for the purpose, of course, of calling in public concerns. Back then, it only had 3 operators with one phone number, and the number 12345 was first launched in Hangzhou in southern China in 1999, and then the following year in Beijing, and in 2019 it was upgraded as part of the reform called Swift Response to Public Complaints. Now that number now incorporates 64 different hotlines which were running previously in the city. Now, this 12345 has 750 channels, 1,700 operators, and offers services to both phone, website, and social media platforms such as Weibo and WeChat. Other cities in China have also adopted the 12345 hotline over the years for general complaints on top of other hotlines for specific topics. So it is now a national standard hotline and cover around 350 administrative units in China, including provinces and provincial capitals and major cities. So that was a brief idea of this 12345 service. Let me go to Professor Xia here. Help us understand a bit of the context of the reform. Why is the reform necessary?
Thank you very much for the question. I think one of the reasons that the 12345 combine and incorporate all the previous hotline is that to provide more convenience for the residents, local residents, to look for help. For example, previously, if we people like us want to call for something like the tax, we need to call 12366. And if you want to call something like the post office, we need to call 12305. And if we want to call something like the market supervision, and if we want to protect our consumer rights, we need to call 12315. So and so on and so forth. There are too many, let's say, different hotlines, and even not just limited to 5 digits, and even 6 or 7 digits. So for those elder people, for those kind of people who do not have ability to memorize all this kind of memory, it is inconvenient for them to look for help. And also for those kind of previous kind of practice, it is difficult for them to connect with the people who could provide the real help. So the 12345 or the swift response to the public complaint help people to quickly get the answer, not real answer to the real question, but the real response. Okay, so for this kind of thing, I think it is a more emotional kind of a touch for the people to get the government kind of response. So I think that is a necessary point.
Better experience talking about, but when we're talking about swift, how swift is swift response. Let me go to Wang Xiaohan. I understand you have some personal experience using the hotline. What was it that you wanted to complain about, and was it resolved swiftly?
Yeah, okay, thank you for the question. Well, I think as a citizen, everyone has its responsibility to maintain the urban facilities. So, I remember last summer when my father and he drove me to school. On the street, I saw some waterlogging roads, and that was a situation solved that for last for 2 and 3 days. Well, for me, it's not only like defends the way I went to school, but also I think it's a major hidden dangers for people's transportation. So I call 12345. Also, maybe they can help change this situation. And I called them at noon, and then I got a response later. They called me that they will come and fix this problem. Like the day after that day, I went here and I saw some people, they're cleaning up the water here, and this problem was suddenly get solved. That's very efficient.
Zoon, let me go to you. You have lived in China for many years, I understand. Have you used this hotline to complain about something? Or if not, have you had friends who were using it? What is your understanding of the service and the meaning of it?
Thank you, firstly, Lucian, for having me here. Yes, it's been about 9 years that I've lived in Beijing. You know, being in a city like Beijing, let me first of all
Just
say
a moment.
that
Just a
one
moment.
of the first, yes,
There's drilling sound coming in.
yes, I said that there is. Yeah, yeah.
Let me go to Raphael, and maybe when it's not running, when it's not drilling, you let me know. Zoon. Raphael, let me ask you about it. You have also lived in China. Have you used the 12345 hotline? What has been your experience?
Not yet. Since I came to China, I heard about the 12345, but I feel that we don't have much understanding of in which situations this hotline may help us. You know, in my mind, I always felt like if something important happens or if I need to report something important, I could call it. You know, I always had that feeling that in situations of emergency, I could call 12345 for information or to report something. But I never felt like my problem is so big that I should call. I think this is one common feeling of many foreigners in China. Maybe the local government should do a better work in explaining how the 12345 can be used by foreigners in everyday life.
Well, what is your understanding of hotlines such as this one, according to your Brazilian background? And have you noticed something different? I mean, for me, this is rather, even for me as a Chinese, this is a rather amazing project for a city of 21 million. How many calls they might be receiving on a daily basis, and they all have to be accounted for. You cannot just say, okay, I heard you, and then that's it. You have to follow up. People have to, your job is not done until you're rated by the one who calls, until the one who calls says, okay, I'm satisfied. That is, for me, that is, I don't know anywhere else this is happening, Raphael.
Yeah, this is really great. You know, yeah, in Brazil, many hotlines have this problem that people complain that they call, they report the problem and don't receive a feedback, or the problem is not solved, or they solve it after a very long time. So basically, in Brazil, I think one issue is that we have many different hotlines, you know, because in China, the government always have a comprehensive approach to policies. So you can have different organizations, different institutions doing different work, but the planning is all interconnected and they often cooperate. So usually in China, you find this kind of situation that you contact one institution and they will direct your issues, your questions to the relevant department. While in Brazil, you need to guess who you should contact to have your problem solved. And sometimes it's the complications start at this moment. So in this sense, I think in China it's much easier. Even because when you need to call, like which hotline should I call? If you have many different hotlines, it can be complicated. But in China, you have only one hotline, and the number is very easy to memorize. So this is a good advantage. I can tell a story from when I was in university. There was a dog died near the avenue in front of my house, and then it starts to decompose, it is smelly, and we tried to call the local service of the city government, and they were saying that it was responsibility of the fireman, and the fireman said it's responsibility of the city hall. So they were like two departments of the government, one giving the responsibility to another, and none of them solved our problem. So for many days, until finally they solved it. So this is an example of what the kind of problem you may create when you have different hotlines.
I see. Well, Professor Xia, the authority, the Chinese government actually set out a mammoth challenge for itself, right? Because you can imagine for a city of 21 million covering 16,000 square kilometers, that's 70 times the size of the Paris metropolitan area. When everybody can pick up the line and just complain, imagine how many people will do that at the same time and day in and day out. And they have to be swiftly responded. The problem has to be swiftly resolved. Otherwise, the relevant authority, local authority or local government will be asked to, to explain why you didn't fix the problem. How big of a challenge is that, and why does China want to take up such a challenge?
Well, I think one of the underlying feature of Chinese government is it is always following the people-centered philosophy, people-centered governing philosophy. So in order to give people that we are really responding to your question, maybe at the spot right now, we could not solve the problem, but we can give you a direction. We can give you a kind of emotional smooth that you are heard, you are concerned, your question is being recorded, and the next stage we'll have some kind of special guys to provide you kind of with the facility. For example, solving the noisy problem, just like Zoo in her house, the noisy, maybe she can just call it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say someone really making a noise, and during the business day, that is the real example we can call. And I myself I really call this kind of thing.
Yeah,
you would.
Example.
Okay, Zoon, let me get back to you. And hope that the noise is not too loud at this time. Let's try it again.
They were very cooperative, so they know the hotline exists, and that acts as a good factor.
You went to talk to the and you said
went next door and asked them.
You said you were going to call 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I didn't need to call, but I do feel, like what Professor Xia mentioned, that I think that cooperative environment exists also partially because people like me or anybody on this panel has the option to call a hotline in case people are not cooperative. So I think that might be, an externality, a positive externality of the hotline existing.
But wouldn't it become a kind of, abuse? Because if you don't satisfy me, if you don't make me happy, whatever my aspiration is, I'm going to call.
No, I agree.
It sounds to me that there is a high possibility that this public service, especially at the grassroots, may be hijacked because people have this very powerful tool.
It's like a weapon, right? And you can use it preemptively. But here I have to add that honestly, my experience, I've lived, as you mentioned, for many years in Beijing. I've lived in 6 different apartments. And increasingly, in this current apartment where I am right now, the entire community, we have a WeChat group, which is very vibrant, where all of us, with the local community officers are able to express any complaints, any ideas, any suggestions that we have. So, for example, when this drilling started, which was actually a few days ago, some of the residents complained about it. And then, that's actually, I think, a function, a facility available to local residents many in their own communities, maybe others like Rafael and Professor Shah would have a similar experience, that they have these WeChat groups or access to the local community officers as well. And once, that doesn't work, if that mechanism doesn't work, which has not happened in my case, I haven't needed to call the helpline because such issues have always been resolved. Then maybe the hotline is a very important facility. So I think in a way, the hotline's existence, given the fact that, for instance, it has a 97% approval rating, means that even those people just calling to vent have been satisfied with the response. And I do believe that with the 22 million resident city like Beijing, it is also the proactive, response of the local community officers, which is encouraged by the existence of a helpline, because in the end, no community officer wants the residents within their jurisdiction to need to constantly call the helpline. So in a way, it is, I think the existence of the hotline is also creating an environment where people, like normal residents like me, whether they're Chinese or foreigners, have better access to the local community officers as well.
Yeah. You talk about, foreign residents having equal access to the local facility and service. Let's take a look at what is happening with a group of international scientists who are living in Huairou, a northern suburb of Beijing, at the Beijing Institute of Mathematical Sciences and Applications. What have been their experience with the hotline? And this is part of a longer 1-hour documentary made by CGTN called Hotline Beijing. Let's take a look at their story.
More than 100 experts from 16 countries and regions are currently working here. The Beijing Institute of Mathematical Sciences and Applications was established in 2020 by renowned mathematician Xing-Tang Yao. It's a symbol of Beijing's ambition to become a global center of science.
以前如果有外国人来到中国，你想工作生活来怀柔这边吧，没有我们想的那么简单。遇到不方便的事儿，人生地不熟的，没有人去给他做对接，该怎么办呢？
Naturally, the district's hotline service doesn't want to receive complaints from some of the smartest people in the world. So they decided to act before the scientists called.
首先，他关注的肯定是他相关的证照的办理。第二，就是他在怀柔的生活是否便捷，比如双语服务呀等等这方面。
I'm looking for milk.
Fresh milk for like alpha. This one's organic.
Okay, thank you very much.
Many people to support you. This is a big difference with Italy. Here we are very well supported and also with a large number.
Okay, indeed, I think they were feeling rather spoiled, I would say, even with this kind of speed and the feedback as a result of such a hotline. Let me go back to Wang Xiaohan again. What is the young people's attitude towards city governance, towards this kind of hotline? Do they tend to use it very often? How much connected are you feeling with the government or the authorities of a city when it comes to governance, when it comes to resolving issues in your daily life or school life?
Well, thank you for the question. Well, for me personally, I think there may be some distance between me and the government departments, because usually, like, when I try to work on some related things, I need to enter here, and usually it takes me several steps to finish such a thing. But for me, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is a really good channel to help me to connect it with the department. Like, you have a direct channel or direct way that explain your needs, and usually you can have very efficient response from the government. So I think that lower the distance between me and the government, and let me know that government is already here, that if I have a need, they're already here to solve my problems. So that's really leave me a very good impressions on the government. I know that even for young people, like, we usually use some internet things, and I also found that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 they have a WeChat official account, And in here, you can also enter your requirements and your needs. And I think that's one also fits for like young people's using style. Rather than directly call on the phone, we can use like WeChat, which is more popular on our daily use. I think they are also doing some changes to fit young people's needs.
Raphael, how much do you think of the kind of efforts that are faced by mega cities around the world? Do you think China's experience is an interesting experiment, at least, that they're trying to satisfy the needs of everybody very fast, make big cities more livable, and also through the use of social media, through the use of big data, AI, and so on and so forth?
Yes, of course. I feel that China is doing like a very important work in this area. I feel that every new technology, including AI and big data, the Chinese government tries to find applications in an innovative way to benefit the people, and also the government is always very concerned about what are the concerns of the local people, what are the problems people face in everyday life, and how to address them efficiently. And the Chinese government itself, it's very, very effective. So I think in this sense, we can say that China is doing many experiences in this aspect that can be used as a model or inspiration by governments of other cities and countries around the world to address similar issues. Because really, as you pointed out, when you have a very big city, it's really hard to make people satisfied. There are lots of problems and lots of different interests.
Yeah.
But China is showing that it's possible. The use of big data, for example, to create statistics that can contribute for better policy planning. It's very positive.
Let's not forget there are, if not hundreds of thousands, there are millions of grassroots cadres, grassroots workers, community service people who are working to get, for the last mile, because you have the complaint, who are working them out? It's these grassroots people. I think something has to be said about that. Raphael, what is your understanding?
Well, about that, I can say that I think the local committees and even the organization of the Chinese governance structure, so you have not only the government but also the party, this makes a very big difference. I've been to many places in China. I visited even villages, rural areas, grasslands, desert, and so on. And everywhere I go, even in very small villages, you see there is a local committee, and the local committee, they know everybody there. They know the everyday life of local people.
Right.
What are their hardships? What are their dreams? What are the problems in the place? And what are also the potential for development of the local area? So only China has this. So this creates a very interesting situation. It gives China much better conditions to address the problems of local people. In this sense, I remember during the pandemic, the local community here, they arranged for us the COVID tests, all those things, and everything was very well organized. And I was touched by the hard work of the volunteers. This must be said.
Yeah. Zoon, chip in a little bit on the part that it's not just the government system, but really the party with, from the top central committees to the very, very local communities. In a hutong, in the smallest alleyways, there will be someone who is responsible, whose KPI is tightly related to how satisfied the residents are, because they are actually part of the hotline. It's not the hotline solving, it's not the operator solving the problem, it's these people who are solving the problem.
The frontliners, basically, right? I mean, I completely resonate with what Raphael just said. One of the things I noticed, and I'll go back to 2021, which was the year of the centenary of the party. And the government, the party gave out these July 1st medals, which were for frontliners in general. And that was it was a very eye-opening moment for me as someone who I was lucky to interview some of those recipients of the July 1st medal. And the point was this important message to the people at large that it's really, service, for a selfless service for the country, for people, for betterment. That is the highest reward. That is what makes a true hero in a society. Yeah. I think the kind of dedication and the kind of, ownership and commitment we see when I walk into this community, even like you said, the police officers, they go out of their way to make residents feel better, safer, take their feedback. We've had many situations, even in this apartment where I'm living, if we say it's an emergency, we're in another city, I need even someone, can you please go feed my cat? I think she doesn't have enough food. They will do that. They're very caring. They have genuine empathy. And for that, like the relationship between the residents and those people is very strong. So I think the emphasis on the messaging that the real heroes are the ones that are taking society forward, that are there to resolve your issues, and that respect, in essence, as a result, there is a respect by the residents, from the residents towards these frontliners. This is a very important part of the decorum. I'll also quickly mention that, even if I have this conversation with someone in Pakistan, of course, we also have our helplines. We are very keen to deepen collaboration with China. And one of the most important aspects during the Prime Minister's visit this year was digital governance. Because just as Rapal was also again mentioning that the way China has created this ecosystem where the government officials are not only just resolving issues, but doing capacity building. And good governance is the priority. This is something where China has a large potential to enable countries like my own, like Rapal's, like so many others to really step up on.
Thank you so much. We have to leave it there. Time has run out. I've been talking to Xiaolu from Renmin University of China, Zoon Ahmed Khan from Center for China and Globalization, Rafael Enrique Zabeto, Brazilian expert at China International Communications Group, and Wang Xiaohan from Nottingham, Ningbo, China. I have also used this hotline. It's been a rather unforgettable experience. It's, again, keep it in our mind, it's a city of 21 million. Imagine trying to make everybody happy and quickly. If I don't hang up the phone, the operator is not allowed to hang up the phone. I heard the longest record is 8 hours. Imagine that. Again, it's a work in progress, and I'm sure it will get even better. Many thanks to my guests, and thank you for having followed us on this special edition. I'm Li Xin. Follow me on social media at the handle Li Xin in Beijing. On behalf of the whole team, thank you for watching. You've got the point.